Thank you for coming. I'm Lucinda Goetz with FM Title, and for those of you who don't know, we're here this morning just to kind of get a little bit more of an idea of what we can do to help out with Habitat's mission, what we can do as far as volunteer opportunities. Sometimes people think that it's just swinging a hammer, and it's a lot more involved. There's a lot more opportunities involved than that. So Pete will kind of give you the lowdown on that, and then we'll have a couple speakers kind of give their experiences of what their experiences with Habitat. One is being a volunteer, Beth, and then the other as an adult and what she's experienced in her life and how it's changed her life. So I will hand it off to Pete.
Thank you, Lucinda. Thanks for all your hard work in getting people to the door for me. Appreciate that. So, good morning, and thank you all for coming today. I'm going to get real loud here. Or maybe I'm real loud. That's the work? Better? Worse? Somewhere in the middle? Every day, people in this room help families live their dream of finding home ownership. And I'm sure every client of yours has their own story. But also I'm positive that some of those stories are a little bit different, a little bit more special than others. Maybe it's someone that's their first time owning a home in their family. Maybe it's a lifelong renter who finally realized what owning a home can do for them and their financial future. Or maybe it's a couple that's able to start a family because they now have the space to start that family. At Habitat, we are blessed to say that we get to help those families realize that dream. And most of them may have not ever thought there was a possibility for them to own a home. I'm fairly confident that Kathy, if you asked Kathy 7 years ago, where's Kathy? Where are you? There you are. If you asked Kathy 7 years ago, her owning a home was probably not on her radar. And so we'd love to be able to tell that story. For the families that we serve, a home of their own is so much more than just a roof and 4 walls. Our families don't get excited, they do, but they don't get excited. You know, they're not looking for granite countertops and huge homes. They're looking for a place that they can establish roots and build their family. And you know, we hear things of like, oh, I've got stairs in my house. I've never had stairs in my house before. Or, now I have a space in the backyard to plant a garden, like I did as a kid with my parents. That's what our families really get excited about, establishing that community in the neighborhood. So. For example, for Marnie, a 2020 partner homeowner, it's about building the strength to escape from an abusive relationship. For Kathy, who you're here from today, it's about the stability that a home can provide for her and her kids. For Nick, a 2021 homeowner, it's about building the self-reliance that gave him the confidence to get his realtor license and start his own successful business. Nick once said, Nick is also a board member of ours, Habitat for Humanity doesn't simply take wood and build homes. It takes hope and builds opportunity. Excuse me. It isn't just a house, it's an opportunity for a family to change their path. We believe that everyone deserves a decent place to live. Worldwide, about 1 in 4 people live in a housing situation that threatens their health, safety, prosperity, or opportunities. Luckily, we're not in that same situation in the U.S. Locally, we're lucky that we don't have the slums that you see in other parts of the world or even parts of our country. But that doesn't mean there's not a need for decent housing. According to a Harvard housing study, there's more than 10,000 households in Cass and Clay County, which is our service area, that pay more than 50% of your income on housing. For those of you, especially the lenders, is that a good deal or not? Not necessarily. If you take those numbers and add in the people that are paying more than 30% of their income on housing, that jumps up to about 21,000 households. So it's a huge number in our community. So, and that doesn't factor in people that are living in situations that maybe are affordable for them, but they're sacrificing some things to live in an affordable place, like health, safety, their kids' health, or overcrowding. We visit a lot of homes that parents are sleeping on the couches or on the floor. Because they're giving their kids their bedrooms. Not everybody has their own bedroom. So. Worldwide, we are part of a worldwide mission. We operate in 70 different countries around the world. Lake Agassiz Habitat operates in Cass and Clay County, so we can build in any of those communities in the county. Habitat has helped over 46 million people build or improve their housing situation since our founding in 1976. That includes 7.1 million people last year alone. Locally, we started in 1991, and since that time have built 72, worked with 72 families, over 300 people, build their own. We typically build new homes here to build a better future. And we're excited to be building 3 more this year. The Maury, the Overson, and the Innu families. So we're building, if you drive by Border States, South Fargo, you'll see a house in their parking lot. That's ours. That's our second one we've done in their parking lot, and we'll be moving that one to Dilworth later this summer. Then we'll be building a house in Barnesville for the Overson family. That'll be our second house in Barnesville, but not our last. We've purchased 3 lots there, and are starting to be building homes in that community in the near future. Our homes are life-changing, but they are not free. There's a reason that the people we serve are called partner families, because they have to have some skin in the game with our mission. So if you don't remember anything from today, remember that Habitat homes are not free. That's a big misconception that we're struggling to overcome. Our families work incredibly hard for this opportunity. Like Kathy, she has 2 jobs and many kids, and she put in over 300 hours of sweat equity, building on her own home, doing things like this for us, working in our restore, building on other partner family homes, which is a great opportunity for them to build upon with their other families that have similar stories to them. So every adult that lives in our home has to build or put in more than 300 hours of sweat equity. They take on a really robust home ownership course that we put them through, and then ultimately they repay the cost of their home back to us and through an income-based mortgage. But what that does is that allows us to build stability. We used to go out and seek donors to build the homes initially, but our families like Kathy repay the cost of their home back to us. We use those funds to help us build future homes and sustain our mission. So it's really a snowball effect. The more homes we build, the more homes we can build. And they're not free homes. So let's see here. We're proud of the work of our work and the families that we've served, but our work is far from over. Every year we typically receive about 50 applications with very little outreach. Most of our families come through places like Churches United, Rape and Abuse Crisis Center, Jeremiah program, things like that are already working with families that are ready for home ownership. Of those 50 families, we typically qualify. There's about a 6-month process that we qualify. Generally anywhere between 15 and 18 families. Like I mentioned earlier, we're building 3 homes this year. So unfortunately, we've had to have that conversation with 12 families this year to say, sorry, you're ready. We believe in you. We think you'd be a great partner family for us. We can't help you. More can be done in our community. We believe we should be building at least 10 or 12 homes a year, and need financial support and support from people like you to make that happen. Realtors and lenders are perfect partners for our mission because obviously you know the home ownership game. I'm sure you've all worked with people that maybe came to you looking to improve their lives and you haven't been able to help them. We can often help those families, so keep us in mind for that. We're always looking. There's many ways to help. Most people think about working on a build site, swinging hammers and running saws with us, but there's many more ways to help. We did put a thing together on your table that has some different opportunities to get involved, and you'll hear a little bit more about those today. But I'll run down those. First is our restore. Our restore is our building materials thrift store over in Moorhead. What you can do there is shop, donate, volunteer. If you're into investing and you're flipping a home, the restore is a great place to get new and used things at a discount price to keep your prices low. If you have rental property and you want to keep your rent low for your tenants, that's another great way to pick up items there. Donate, again, if you're flipping a home and you have nice cabinets that are coming out, if you're replacing them, we'll actually come out and take those off the wall for you and bring them back to the restore and sell those and help other people in need. And then of course volunteer. The restore is open Tuesday through Saturday every week, and so we're always looking for people that maybe, especially people that might have, hey, I have Wednesday afternoons off, I can come and spend 2 hours at the restore, so we get some consistency there. So Builds is the next thing on there. Again, our general build site volunteer, you can come out and swing a hammer with us. We're always looking for people to come out anytime we're building, but we're especially looking for those that can come out and help lead other volunteers. So if you or somebody you know has some skills in building, and they want to spend some more time with us, we're not asking them to come every day, but if they can spend 2 or 3 days with us and help lead other volunteers, that would be a huge help. So, and then there's always hospitality too. Yes, sir.
Is there age limit on volunteers?
Yeah, so you have to be 16 to be on site, and 18 to run power tools and be up on scaffolding and ladders and things like that. So good question. We have individuals come and volunteer with us. We also have groups. So if you want to do a team day to come out and work with us. Deanna is your person to ask about that. She's our volunteer coordinator, family services person. So, and one we are going to hear about today from Beth is the family mentor opportunity. All of our families get a mentor that kind of help hold their hand a little bit through our process. So it's a big process, but it's a rewarding one. So we'll let Beth talk a little bit more about that. Donate. Obviously, no money, no mission. So we are seeking donations to help build our homes. Right now, unfortunately, the cost of building has skyrocketed in the last couple of years, and that's true for us too. Last year, we saw our houses go up to about $250,000 from about $175,000 the year before. And hopefully we're coming down a little bit from that this year, but we're still up in that area. We were prepped to build about 5 homes in 2022, but unfortunately had to pull back to 3 because of the cost of it. So 3 more families didn't get served that year. So. Then the other one is the last one that I wanted to mention is real estate. Obviously we can't build without land to build on. So whether it's an individual lot, whether it's a house that maybe we can flip it ourselves and get a family in there, we can do that. Or bigger developments where we're building 10 or 12 homes in one spot. We certainly are looking for that. And then one opportunity that I want to finish up with is in 2018 we did a Realtor build. I don't know if many of you might have been involved in that. We'd like to bring that program back with a little bit of a twist. One of the challenges with doing an entire build and seeking donations to do an entire build for one group like the Realtors is it's a big ask, especially now. And so our idea now is not necessarily to do a whole home maybe every couple years, but to maybe fund a kitchen or a bedroom every single year in one of our homes. So it's more consistent, there's more engagement, it's not, the ask is not so huge. So if anybody's interested in kind of helping spearhead that and kind of run that for us, I'd love to talk to you after the program. So unless there's any other questions, I will introduce Beth, one of our 2022 partner family mentors. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Beth Prigelmeier. I'm from Mortgage Solutions Financial. I'm a mortgage lender. I was looking for ways to get involved in my community with that kind of set my skill set. And like many of you, I participated in a build, filled out a survey and got an email, and it said, hey, you were maybe interested in being a mentor. And I was like, yeah, I was. Because a mentor basically helps that partner family go through the build process. We're the liaison that kind of helps them figure out down payment. Hey, do you have enough down payment saved? Because yeah, they do have to put a down payment. I didn't know that. Help them figure out insurance. I do that all the time for my clients. Help them figure out, give them names of insurance agents. Have them reach out, tell them what to do. Make sure that they're getting their hours in. Holy cow, do they have to put the hours in for that build and to get credit? Family members can help, but we're kind of help them track it too. So me and my co-mentor, Jamie, got together. We're like, okay, I've never done this, you've never done this, let's figure this out. Met the family. Panina was amazing. Went and met them the first time in her small North Fargo home that she was renting in not a good neighborhood with her 5 kids. And I think maybe it had 2 bedrooms, and yeah, they slept like 3 to a room. and she didn't care. They were all happy. They had a roof over their head, but Penina knew that it wasn't a safe area for her children, and it really bothered her. She had such a great faith and was an amazingly hard worker. She would work, like go into work at 7 in the morning, get home at 7 at night. A lot of times she had a niece or nephew over that she was taking care of because family is very important to them. She overcame so many obstacles from leaving a third world party or third world place to come here basically just for her life that she had to escaping an abusive and terroristic ex-husband who was like it was an arranged marriage, to him taking her tax return from her kids, which she didn't get any child support at all. For her, she never ever lost her faith. You know, she was always happy. Her kids were always happy. And look at her some nights, because she'd be like up all night with a sick kid and had to go to work the next day. And you women all know that, and guys too. You know, when you've got to get up and go to work, you're dead tired. And I'm like, Penina, you know, then you gotta go volunteer and do your hours after working a 12-hour day. And I'm like, Penina, you're like tired. And she's like, it's okay, I'll sleep when I get the house. Yeah, I got so much more out of being her mentor, and it was like meeting with her maybe once a month. Or I think one of the challenges we had, she didn't want her kids to switch schools in the middle of the school year. So we kind of helped call around to West Fargo schools, found out that she actually had to arrange it through, you know, get her own transportation, but she figured it out and she did it. She's amazingly resourceful, and she taught me a lot too about just hard work, never losing faith, and being thankful. Border states wanted to fill her pantry, and so we were like, hey, what kind of goods do you like? You know, food and stuff like that. Well, I can't do that. You know, I just can't accept that. She was so, you know, we had to basically pry it out of her and say, you know, take it because you need it, and they want to do this for you. So she's just always so humble and thankful. It's a small amount of time, but it's way more rewarding in what you get back. And yeah, I don't know what more to say, but it's simple and it's a definite need. And we all know that affordable housing in our area, especially with rates and prices going up, is a big need. So I know Habitat we're seeing more and more people who need it. Yeah, we appreciate everybody. Thanks, Lucinda.
Thank you, Beth. Like she said, the mentors serve as a really great kind of an extension of our staff. You know, we have a small staff. We're all stretched pretty thin, and so the mentors take an enormous amount of strain off what we're doing, which helps us build our mission. So I will introduce our staff on the right there. Jim Nelson, he's our executive director.
Hi, thank you for being here.
Brianna Gruenberg is our family services and volunteer coordinator. So if you're interested in volunteering or serving as a mentor, she's your person to talk to there. And then Ellie Mans is our Vista for this year, so we're happy to have her. We have other staff that you've probably seen on the screen that we're off building homes right now, so they're off doing that and running our restore and things like that. So thank you. So next, I'd like to introduce Kathy Benjamin. Kathy is a 2021 homeowner. We actually had a new program with hers called the CEO Build, where we engaged 15 leaders from the community that all joined in both financially and people power wise to help Kathy and her family build a home. And Kathy is a phenomenal example of what we look for in a partner family. As you'll hear, she's done some amazing things post moving into her home. So please help me welcome Kathy Benjamin.
We're done at 10.
10 minutes?
Oh, like. Oh, okay. Well, hello, my name is Kathy Benjamin. 2021 CEO build, that was a lot of fun. I'll tell a little bit about myself, my current self, before I get into the background. I currently work as a care coordinator at the LAHFH project. It's my favorite job I've ever had. I also work at Achieve Recovery Homes. It's a new sober living home we just opened up this year in January, actually. I do like the social media managing. I offer support for the guests in the home. I kind of do a lot of things. I don't really have a title. I'm just there. I just do stuff. Usually I get to say I'm a full-time student as well at MSUM, but I did make a decision to kind of pull back a little bit this last fall. Things got a little crazy. But will be continuing my major in social work and minoring in juvenile justice. I have a strong passion for adolescent kids in the foster care system, and you'll hear why. I also, my biggest role, as Pete said, is I have tons of kids. It's my most important role. I have 5 kids, ranging from the age of 5 to 18. I'm 31 and I usually like to leave it at that and let people do math and then like laugh about it, but I won't. I'll tell you guys, I adopted my 2 older kids about 3.5 years ago. They've been with me for about 3.5 years now. So I have them. And let's see, I am also big into my cultural community. I'm Native American. I'm enrolled in Mille Lacs Lake, so I do a lot of traveling. Recently, I got reconnected to my tribal land, so I do a lot of traveling to Duluth and up in Mille Lacs, and I attend drum ceremonies and storytelling events and stuff like that. I am also really big in the NA community. I take a lot of pride in being able to recover out loud because that's a huge part of my story. And so I spend a lot of time in the NA community doing a lot of different events. The summer is my favorite. We have all kinds of stuff we do. So it's a little bit about my current self. So now what I'd like to do is I'm going to say a word, and I want you guys to take a few seconds to reflect on what that word means to you, like the memories, the thoughts, or whatever it is that comes to you, okay? Okay. So the word is home. What do you think of when you think of home? Usually I would think that you would think of your childhood house, maybe a family pet, siblings, family, love, security, trust, right? Maybe like a big, beautiful backyard with your favorite tree, things like that. Before Habitat for Humanity, I didn't think of any of those things. That's not what home was to me. Home was a very distorted word for me. People would ask, where's home? People ask me that all the time. When people would ask me that, I never knew how to answer that question. You know, I'd be like, well, I was born in Minneapolis. I'm an enrolled member of Mille Lacs Lake. I kind of was here and then it gets weird because I was raised in foster care. So I was in homes in Minneapolis, St. Paul, Moorhead, Fargo, West Fargo, Argusville. I lived with my dad for a very short time up on the res in East Lake. So I never knew what to say. I didn't know how to answer that question. Foster care, it took up a big portion of my life. The crazy part of it is I was raised or taken, we should say, I was taken from an abusive home, and then I was placed into the foster care system where at that time it wasn't like it is now. So at that time I was placed in several different homes that were honestly just as abusive as the one that I was taken from. So that was home, right? That's what I heard of home. I can't tell you how many doors that I walked through in houses that I was expected to call home, and it was never safe, and it was never secure, and I was never stable at any of those places. There was a lot of pain that I grew up in, and that's just how life was for a while. My mom got custody back of me when I was about 7 or 8 years old, and again, countless foster, like I really couldn't give you a number, and how many houses I was in before that. I want to stay strict on houses because they were not homes, those were houses. But when I got back with my mom, my stepdad, he's an amazing person, I still look at him as a dad today. He bought a house for us to live in, and he still lives there, and so does my mom to this day. But when I think of that house, it's still not home. After my mom got me back, unfortunately, she went back into the addiction cycle and she continued her drinking, and then it got worse into other drugs, and so the abuse was still there. It wasn't so much physical anymore, it was more mental, verbal abuse that I dealt with, emotional abuse. I don't know about you guys, but words leave deeper scars than anything else. So that's just kind of what I went through for years. And if you know anything about addiction, that's like the perfect recipe, all the factors that I was subjected to continue a family cycle of addiction. And so at 12 years old, I started using. And I got pregnant at 16 years old. I was expected to basically be an adult at that point, but I was still a kid. And so for a long time, I remained what I call a functioning addict for a while. I still worked. I still was able to get into apartments. I was still able to do those things. They weren't the best apartments because I didn't know what a proper up to par, I guess we could say, home was like. And so I was living in more of like the not the greatest areas. And I did that for a while up until I was 22. I had my second kid. And that's when my usage exploded. Things got a lot worse. Growing up, I always said, I'm not gonna be like my mom, I'm not gonna be like my dad, my kids are never gonna go to foster care. But unfortunately, I was already past that. My kids were taken from me when they were 5 years old and 5 years old and 10 months old, and entered the foster care system. And things got even worse for me. The cycle, it was deep, it was heavy. I was homeless for all of that time. My kids stayed in the foster care system for about 2 years. During that time, I created a lot of debt for myself. I got my car repossessed, credit cards, those never got paid. Those really racked up. My credit score went really low. I got evicted from several different places. I created a laundry list for my criminal history. There was even a point in time where I had caught a few felonies. I was very, very lucky that those did not stick on my record. I was very lucky that they got moved down to misdemeanors. But those are all things that my childhood had set me up for, my addiction had set me up for. So like I had a mess. I had a huge mess. Getting into anywhere, especially somewhere that is safe, in a safe area, was not in reach for me at all. I finally was in jail for a while. I don't know if I said that, but just so you guys know, I was in jail for a while. And during that time though, I suffered even more trauma. My best friend, who was actually a partner family in one of the years way back, she had passed away. She was my best friend since I was 12 years old. She was like my biggest fan. I was her biggest fan. She passed away to suicide when I was in jail during my active addiction. That one still gets me. I always do that to myself. But that's when I realized I needed a change. That pain, as addicts, we use because we don't want to feel. We don't want to remember. We don't want to know what we've been through, what we continue to go through. We don't want to know those things. But losing my best friend, I called her my sister. That was a pain nothing could numb. And that's when I realized I needed to make a change. June 13th of 2016, I entered treatment. And I completed my inpatient treatment program. I moved on into a halfway house. I came home and I got pregnant 6 months later. So that's when my that's when I got pregnant with my third child. And I worked minimum wage. I was making at that time I think it was like $10.75 an hour, working 40 hours a week, pregnant. Still didn't get my kids home completely yet. I was working on it. But that's what I had to do. And I lived in this really, really ghetto area. I remember one time they found like shotguns outside somebody's window, just outside where everybody's kids play. Like that's where I was living. But that's the only place I had to live. Everybody was denying me because of my record, because of where I was at. I was really lucky enough that I had proved my case well enough to my social worker so that she had a friend that managed apartments and I was able to get in. If it wasn't for her giving me a second chance, I wouldn't even have made it as far as I did to get to Habitat. So I was really, really lucky that even though this place wasn't the best, that was home, that's where I got. And I got to get my kids home. In 2017, my kids came home to me. So I had all three of my kids, two, I was still pregnant. I had them and I was still working. I worked up until the day before I went in for my scheduled C-section because it was just me. I'm a single parent. I don't, even to that day, to this day, I don't have a mom, I don't have a dad that is there for me. I don't have siblings that are there to assist me. I don't have aunts, uncles, grandmas. I don't have that benefit. That's something most people just have. I don't have that. So I worked really, really hard at that. I worked that dead-end job for 3-4 years. I came to a point where I realized that I deserved more, and I enrolled myself in school, and I started my degree. And it wasn't long after that I learned that my nieces were in foster care. I think I met them once when they were really little, and they found me on Snapchat as teenagers, and clearly adults, Snapchat, whatever. So she had gotten a hold of me on there, and It was a matter of months before I had her in with me. And then I found out she had a sister that was living on the streets in Minneapolis because she was running from her group home, same thing. And so I wanted to get her in too, but I realized I needed a bigger house. And bigger houses are more expensive, especially when you have the history that I have. Luckily, I had made a little bit of improvement in my credit. Obviously, I had been able to prove that I could rent places and pay the rent and do what I was supposed to do. So like the people that I was able to go through got a little bit higher. I was still living in not the best area, but I got there. And then I got my girls in with me. And then I started working in the recovery community, doing kind of what I do now. But that still doesn't bring that much of an increase in pay. I mean, I was doing a lot better than the $10.75 I was making. But I was living in a house that was 5 bedrooms, on the edge of Ronki. We're just gonna call it out what it is. And that's where I was at. And then I wanted a bigger house still. Like, I wanted to get out of the area. I wanted to prove to my kids that they deserve more. I wanted to prove to myself that I deserved more. But getting a loan from a bank still was out of the reach for me. Like, I was like looking up houses and they were so expensive. I was like, there's no way. Paying what I was paying for rent at that time, I didn't get to save up money. That's not something that, like, that wasn't a natural thing. I don't have like any intergenerational wealth that I came from either. I didn't I didn't have any resources. And so that's when I remembered about Habitat for Humanity, my sister, because she had been through it. I applied 1 year and I almost got it, but I didn't. So I reapplied again the next year. And here I am. I was blessed with that opportunity. Things started moving really quick. It was really funny. One of the things that they do when you're like kind of going through the application process is they come and look at your house. And when I was filling out this application, I was like, gosh, there's nothing wrong with my house. Like, mine's my credit, mine's my criminal history. Like, that's why I'm having troubles getting into places. And then they came in and they were like, oh, your sink's not working? And I was like, no. And they're like, oh. And they're like, why is your ceiling dented in like that? I'm like, I don't know. I had so many things wrong with my house, but that was normal to me. That's what I knew. So when they talk about like needing a house that like is good for you and whatnot, like I had no idea what that was. I was fine where I was at. I had no idea. I was happy. I had my kids. You know, I had a home. So then, oh goodness, I'm gonna lose my train of thought. Went through that. Let's see. Hold on. I wrote notes because I knew that was gonna happen. I'm surprised I made it this long. I will probably say this several times, my favorite part about Habitat for Humanity, there's lots of favorite parts, but it's not just building a house. Like I said, they don't just build a house and give it to you. You don't even help them just build a house and then they give it to you. Like, there's so much more that comes into that. So we look at like my childhood, my adolescence, right? And I already went over that story, so you guys can just about imagine. I didn't know how to save money. I didn't know what credit really was. Like, I was figuring it out because people were denying me, but I still didn't know how to manage any of those things. So I got to go through a financial class with Habitat for Humanity, and they taught me how to manage money. And then I was like saving money. I created a savings account and I paid off my debt super quick. I was very aggressive because of the program that they used for that. Like, I was able to do that. My credit score in the beginning of my recovery 7 years ago, that's why he says 7 years ago. 7 years ago, I was like 515. And I think by the end of like and I'll share this with you, but by the end of that program, like a few months after, I had gotten up to like a 740. Like, that was huge. Yeah, that was huge. So some of it was on my own, and then the rest of it was with them. That's what they helped me with. They also did classes like for me to learn how to mow my lawn and, well, take care of my lawn, and I'm still learning that. I am not a master at that yet. I have a very large yard, and I've never had a yard before like that, so we're still figuring that out. But they're there when I need them for those things, you know? I'm trying to think of some other things. I don't know. Building the house was a lot of fun though too, because I got to go in. I was there almost for every different process that there was. I was there. I got to be there for the framing. I got to be there for the framing. I got to be there to put up the walls. I had COVID during flooring, so I helped another family. That's the cool part too. You don't just get to work on your house. If you want to help other people, you get to help other people on their houses, and you get to connect, and you get to meet, and you just get to do a lot of fun networking with those individuals. And yeah, that was that part of it. I was able to finally move my kids into the house, and that's when Pete talks about when I talk about stability. Like, now you're kind of understanding what that means for me, stability. I finally had a house to go to. My kids, so 4 out of 5 of my kids were in foster care. The older one, the older two, I think when they did like a timeline of how long they had been in foster care, They had been in foster care, let's see, I got the one when she was 14, and she had been in foster care for 11 years. And her sister was 12, so she was in there about this, and I think she had a little bit of less time, like a little less. She might have been like 8 or 9 years. So those are constant foster homes, and they lived a tough life, and so they ended up in group homes. So they didn't get a lot of foster homes. You know, my older kids, they had been in foster care. My youngest baby, I call my recovery baby. He never has to see any of that. He's never seen me use. He's never seen me be abusive because I repeated the cycle, right? But he never has to see any of those things. Those kids never knew what it was like to have a home either. I had been through it. They had been through it. What was cool, I don't know if I mentioned this though, is I got my foster care license, which is a really cool part of the story too. That's how I got my nieces in with me. And so now, when I finally got to move into my house and like start moving my furniture in and started to like, even planning like different holidays and whatnot, like that's when I realized what a home was. 29 years old, I think is when I moved in. I think if my math is right, I'm 31, so like, yeah. So at 29 years old, I finally got to learn what a home was, and that was because of Habitat for Humanity. In the background, you know, like I'm still going to school, I'm just taking a break, I'm just hard on myself. Like, so I still go to school, you know, I get to work in a recovery community where I get to give back with my lived experience. You know, the sober living home is an amazing opportunity. I don't like to take much credit for it because it's my partner who does all of that stuff. But like I'm along for the ride. I get to help do those things. Like I get to give back, and it was really amazing that I finally got to be somebody who somebody gave back to as well. And if it wasn't for Habitat for Humanity, like, don't get me wrong, I'd still be doing what I'm doing, but it would be really, really hard. It would be really stressful. I don't know that my credit would be where it's at. I don't know if I would have the ability to save money where I'm at. Like, having an affordable house that I'm in now, which I do pay for, that's the other thing. I don't like things handed to me. I've given my past. I really appreciate my independence. And they didn't just give that to me. They didn't just like say, here's everything, there you go, and I didn't just like mooch off somebody. Like, no, I put in my hard work, I put in my time, I put in my effort, I put in money, and I continue to put in money. And so that's what Habitat for Humanity has done for me, and I just couldn't thank them enough. I feel like it's a really beneficial program, and I know that like I said, I'm an NA. I know tons of people who would benefit from having a Habitat for Humanity house. The people that I work with every single day, I have a caseload of 30 to 35 people usually, and so many of them that walk in could also utilize a house. But if they're only building 3 or 4 houses a year, that's touching like a minuscule amount, you know? And so the mission and that Habitat for Humanity brings is so important, and I could go on and on and on about them, but I won't. So thank you for listening, and that's all I got.
Thank you, Kathy. Families like Kathy, they don't need charity, they need capital. As she demonstrated, she can do wonderful things on her own, but she can do even better things with the help of people like you in this room. So we're asking for your support, not only this year, but moving forward. And if you have any ideas that you think would be good for us to look at, we're certainly open to new and better ways. So that wraps up our program today. I will reference this sheet again. On the bottom of that is a QR code. That will bring you to a landing page kind of specific to realtors and lenders, with opportunities there to learn how to be a mentor, how to volunteer, how to donate. We have some information in the back of the room along with what we call a dip jar. It's set at $20, so if you're inspired to give today, you can dip your credit card in there and it'll charge $20. You can dip more than one time if 20 bucks isn't meaningful for you, but others are. But our staff will be around for any questions, or if you have any questions, I'll certainly take them to if you want for the good of the crowd. So. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I know you're all busy. I appreciate you coming here. So.